So coming off the 2023 season, there had to be some really big changes, especially with the new ownership coming in, and the new owners coming in from Dan Schneider. There had to be a lot of new things going on in Washington, and they had to really get rid of all of the old, the old smell, the previous regime. So obviously Ron Rivera was fired, GM was fired, everything had to go for a rebuild. So the Commanders in the 2024 offseason, they hired Adam Peters to be their GM, and they hired head coach Dan Quinn, former defensive coordinator to the Cowboys, former Falcons head coach. I'm glad that Dan Quinn got another chance to become a head coach in the NFL, which is great. And they needed to address that. They needed to address the quarterback position, because that's been the position for them for way too long, that they haven't had a franchise guy for a long time. And they've tried with Sam Howell and Carson Wentz, and it hasn't worked out. So they had to really absolutely get this quarterback position right. So they drafted Jayden Daniels. He comes in, and again, he has a really good rookie year. They start the season though 1-2, so they start the season 1-2, really kind of slow start, but they get themselves together midway through the season, and ultimately become a 12-5 team. The first time that they've won 12 games since 1991 in the regular season. So yeah, they had a really good year. They got themselves. They were second in the NFC East. Second in the NFC East with a rookie quarterback. And in a division with the Cowboys and the Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles won the division, but with the Eagles and the Cowboys going at the NFC East every year, pretty impressive with a rookie quarterback as well. So they got to the playoffs. They beat the Bucks and the Lions in the wild card in the divisional round. They beat the Bucks in the wild card, and then they beat us in the divisional round, and then ultimately they win their first playoff game since 2005. Now I talked about this. This was when the whole Ricky Williams thing was going on, with the whole trade thing, and how with that whole trade with him. If you've seen that video that I did, the whole draft video where they didn't win a playoff game till 2005. Now you have them in 2024 winning the first playoff game since 2005. So yeah, they lost the NFC Championship. They go to the NFC Championship game against the division rivals, the Eagles, losing 23-55. Really got blown out of the water. And I think at that point in the season, they were just outmatched by one of the better teams. But again, it was a great learning experience, I think, in my opinion, for Jayden Daniels in his rookie year to get to an NFC Championship game. And it just proves to me that he is the guy. Now, again, there is still holes in this Commanders team that have to be addressed in this offseason. Luckily for them, that they have 79 million in cap space, so they have a shit ton of cap space that again, they're not going to get everything right, and they're not going to get what they need just in this draft. They can just see what they have in free agency again, but we'll talk about it in a minute. The additions that they had around Jayden Daniels this year, though, they still had Terry McLaurin. They have Brian Robson Jr., which again, Terry McLaurin, who's been there for forever, and then you have Brian Robson Jr., who was drafted a number of years ago, and he's done some good things, and I was interested, and that was a really good dynamic with having Brian Robson Jr., and then you have with having Jayden Daniels come in, you have somebody that can throw to a Brian Robson Jr. and a Terry McLaurin. So you're not having like, oh my god, it's fucking Sam Howell and it's not going to be that good. But again, that really got the best out of Brian Robinson Jr. and Terry McLaurin. And then Austin Eckler comes in from the Chargers. Again, another good addition to help Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels in his rookie year had 3,568 passing yards. He was named the rookie of the year by the NFL. So again, he had a fantastic first year, gained over 3,000 passing yards in his rookie year, and getting to a championship, an NFC championship game. Fantastic, and he was named rookie of the year, like I said. Terry McLaurin had a good year himself with 1,900 over 1,000 receiving yards. And then on the defense side of the ball, they had Bobby Wagner coming as well, which again he's been around a hot minute. You know, former Super Bowl champion with the Seahawks. He's been to the Rams. He's been everywhere, but again, he's a great addition to this team. The experience he has on the linebacker position, and then Jerry Allen, you still have him in the defense as well. But passing yards, this is where they really need to work. I know that you had Jayden Daniels had do some great stuff this season, but still in the passing, he was 17th in passing, which again that has to be addressed in the off season. Rushing yards, they was third out of 32 rushing yards. Again, running the ball, they were pretty impressive, but it's passing the ball they have to address. And then points for, they had the 5th best offense in the league. Points against, 18th again. Work on the kind of the defense. But again, you look at wide receiver. They need a wide receiver in this draft. You're looking at kind of the wide receiver class. If you're not impressed with that, then you're looking at, if I'm the Commanders, I have $79 million in cap space. Go for T. Higgins. T. Higgins would be fantastic for this team, in my opinion. T. Higgins would be fantastic. You have $79 million in cap space, so you can again, you have still a lot of cap. You have a lot of cap space, nearly $80 million. So you can get T. Higgins, bring him in. You can work with Jayden Daniels and see how they pair together. Can that be a really good pairing? But again, if you're not going to go for it like a T. Higgins, then you go for somebody in the draft, and then you need to work on the edge, on the trenches on that defensive side of the ball. Edge has to be addressed because again, the name of the game is to see what you have to work on that defense side of the ball. Because again, he was 18. He was 18th in defense last year. That again, you don't have to have an elite defense, but again, especially when you have a defensive-minded head coach, those numbers have to be a lot better than 18th in the league. So you have to go for get a wide receiver, either T. Higgins or somebody in the draft, get an edge, and then ultimately get yourself an offensive tackle. You need somebody to protect, and who's going to protect Jayden Daniels on that offensive line. You need to be addressing the offensive line. So you can probably find somebody like a day 2 pick or a day 3 pick. And then a cornerback, a defensive line, and an inside linebacker. And, you know, the running back position wasn't that bad this year. But they were third in rushing. But again, you can get yourself a running back. Maybe in the free agency, find somebody there that you're like, oh yeah, I'll put that down. But overall, it was a good year for the Commanders. It was a really good year for them, especially from the previous number of seasons that they've had. And Jayden Daniels had a really good first year, I think, in my opinion. And he had a good year. He still needs a wide receiver and a running back to help him. I know he has Terry McLaurin, and he has Brian Robinson Jr., but Austin Eckler as well. But you know, if you got yourself a T. Higgins, if you got something like a T. Higgins in there, and him added to this team could really get you, could keep you contending for this team, could have you continuously contend for playoff place every year and a championship game every year, and you know, it'd be the Eagles and the Commanders going at it every year for the NFC East. Because again, the Commanders are going to overtake the Cowboys in the NFC East. It's going to be just them and the Eagles every year going for the championship. But yeah, they have to go for an offensive line, fix the trenches as well. Defensively, absolutely defensively, but offensively, they need to fix the trenches on both sides and get some more weapons.